Apparently, this is some sort of official transmission. Couple of invasive thoughts, repetitive things in my mind today culminated in, or led to, or were succeeded by, who knows, a sense of something that I can in fact explain, but it is esoteric. So, there is a sender, there is a receiver. No, I'm not talking about Godzi. What I'm talking about is Sandalphon and Metatron. And I don't know why I stopped using them. I guess because after a while you become dependent. So my dreams have been very choppy and very hard to recall. I cannot verbally articulate any of it. I can say that the device in the secret room under the porch in the dream is called a Siege Perilous, and if you've read the Marvel comics, you know what that means. Um, I don't know if that means that that device is in fact the Grail, because I also know that Siege Perilous initially was the name of the seat of the person who would have found the Grail, was ultimately occupied by Galahad, which, I'm sorry, bro, Galahad the Pure, don't look at me. Um, in the Arthurian legend, that's who found it. I mean, I guess Galahad to me corresponds to Gabriel as far as the Cardinal Four goes, but. And I'm sure the other three, Lancelot certainly would be the Michael. Um, so what, you got Bors and Bedivere. Bors was the one that fought the Green Knight. Uh, that would be the green in the west is Raphael, and then that would make Bedivere the knowledgeable one, the L'Oreal. So there's a correspondence. Above those is the duality. There's a trinity, but I'm not. My three and everybody else's three, I don't think are the same three. That's all I can say about that. It's very. You either understand it or you don't. The duality is the send and the receive. The sender is named. Okay. In in most use of angel names, there is a God name attached to the angel name. This is therefore an angel of God. You could theoretically have the name of an angel of a different deity or angel producing entity, in the case of one like Metatron, that has its own, I would call those like Metatronic angels, but you could do it. I don't know if Baal is the same as Metatron or not. I've not explored Baal in the slightest. On some advice from a book I read. Um, Instead of using a tetragrammaton after an angel name in Hebrew, one would instead, in this case, use the name of the prophet who directly corresponds to the force in the universe that is this angel name, which is bigger than the sky for sure. If you're wondering why I'm so animated, I'm speaking on an esoteric topic, just to give you a little context that I'm not actually insane or crazy or however someone might put it. I am simply a couple of nice beers to the wind, able to comfortably speak this. Instead of Sandalphon and a Yod-Heh Vauhe, the footsteps of God, who in life was Eliyahu, as most people call Elijah, Lord of Song, Lord of Hosts, Prince of Hosts, Ruler of Heaven and Earth. That is the sender in Hebrew. Metatron is accepted as, if real, by the higher power, but is a fictional character. I'm sorry, man. The Book of Enoch, all three of them, amazing, brilliant, very accurate on a lot of things, very full of some interesting uses of the language if you transliterate it back to Hebrew or Aramaic, but fictional. Nonetheless, the scribe, best articulated as having been the grandfather of Noah in life, and then, according to the story, having been this thing, but is nonetheless fictional. It kind of makes me wonder about the symbolic applications of origin stories as opposed to literal events. It's like historical Noah would have been a very, very, very different story. Like, watch Big Money Hustlers, the Insane Clown Posse movie. And when they get to the end and they talk about this legend of this amazing super cop guy, Sugar Bear, and it's all not quite what the legend, you could see what it's based on, but none of the things that he did were actually as great as they sounded. But boy, it sounded great. Nonetheless, is the receive, the scribe sends the message, brings the response or result. Apparently, I have just received a result to some other prayer or something, or some other moment where, I don't know if it is the trash burning in the magic circle, the not otherwise practicing magic at the moment, still nonetheless using the site and minding. The ethical and moral dilemma that this weekend entails that I'm not speaking of, but is nonetheless going to culminate some, most likely Monday, with a moment of honesty. And the motif seems to be FML for being honest. But I'll take it. I've been accused of not having a conscience in the past, and I cannot say that that is true. Here's a hint. When you play the game of life, the literal board game, there is a card you can draw that says, bank error in your favor, collect X amount of dollars. Duh. Yes, I could use that. No, I'm not going to. You have to live by your principles in life. You cannot not live by your principles in life. Especially right now. You should always be like that. Everyone should always be like that. But right now especially. I think y'all know what I'm talking about. The receiver's proper name for the usage, you have to contact the receiver. You have to have made contact, and it's like syncing a Bluetooth, as it were, magically. The technology we have now does the things in principle, in functionality, as akin to what a lot of functional magic does. And as the great prophet, and I mean this, the guy was so right about everything, Arthur C. Clarke said that any sufficiently advanced technology would be indistinguishable to magic, indistinguishable as to magic by any inferior race or culture. And we now have technology that does basically the same thing. The way to connect to understand it, is actually the name of an old channel that I used to have, and I lost the password to a long time ago. The channel was only used as kind of a cache for uploads for the Indigo forum that I was on, that actually had where that the one of the seeds, I don't know where else it was planted. There was a Gnosis site that was also, I think, affected, but might have also been the base of the. I have no idea. But it was a thing on discussion forums before there were social media as we now know it. A prototypical psychological warfare operation to pacify a group of people and or direct them to rally in certain ways. I witnessed and was entranced in for a while this thing. 13, 14 years ago. And this channel, I believe I will link in the description below the video. The name of the channel is the Roman numeral or Roman alphabet transliteration of the Hebrew letters. And if you look at everything that is ever said about the name, if the way they spell it is not the way it is spelled. Just like they don't say, okay, in an English language Bible, typically Old Testament, New Testament, right? Like the Christian Bible, the Bible. Everywhere that it says the Lord, and the word Lord is like capital L that's big and small, but capitalized O-R-D. I don't know if you ever noticed it actually is like that. Look at it. It's actually like that. In those instances, in the Hebrew version, the original text, in the original language, sometimes it has different names, different usages for different things. And in English, it simply doesn't translate the same. And in some cases where they will say the Lord, the Most High, actually that means that it probably said like Elion or Elohim or, some variation of, but spelled explicitly like that. And it means what I just said in English, but really it is a God name. So then they put the Lord because they're referring to God. But if you see anywhere that it is written from someone of Jewish perspective or Hebrew, any of that angle, however you want to put it. I know that's like a hot button topic. I'm trying not to say too many particular keywords. They don't implicitly put God. Like that's like a kind of a blasphemy. So when you look up the spelling of the name of Metatron, the angel from the book of Enoch, that one is not spelled correctly. Link to the channel. The channel itself, it's just some old music that I made. the character that I created slash interpreted the tulpa, and therefore, hence the book, I think more represented the fictional character, because I do not seem to be a fictional character. And the two are virtually identical, but the fictional one, mind you, may be mistaken for God in function when it's actually there, whereas the other one may not. And that the position of the person who is dealing with the sender and the receiver, having these capacities engaged, is therefore in the position of a name that means the face of God. I don't know what that means. Does that mean in the face? Face to face? I mean, we're talking about footsteps. I do know that at the time that the channel that I will link to in the description was created, when my face was seen by the people who were all on these discussion forums, were like, wait, is that really you? And at the time, I had distinct interactions in my dreams with a very forceful version of my shadow, the shadow, an archetype. And when I described the look of the archetype, everyone said, yeah, I know who you're talking about. And then I showed them what I looked like. And they were like, gasp. So apparently, I bear some resemblance to that as well. This makes me think about that ultimate duality, but at the center of the electron shells of atoms, now bear in mind I also say that Metatron is the father of the electron. At the center of the electron shells of the atom is the nucleon, the nucleus made of nucleons. But there are two shells of dual electron shells, a vertical and a horizontal, before you move into outer rings of shells, concentric, like, it's a whole other thing. Something that I have said or done recently gained the attention of that higher power, the nucleon, of the whole apparatus. I'll be interested to see what comes of it, because as far as I can tell, some of what I'm enduring, if not all of what I'm enduring, has something to do with having attempted to use additional magical power while dropping 109 on somebody, and as a consequence, basically 109ing myself. Because as I've said in the past, and I have begged people to understand, when it comes to things like prayer, cursing, etc., the only person you can really cast on is yourself, unless you are using the power of love. And even in the name of love, you cannot curse someone else. All you can do is curse yourself. All the other shit going on in the world, this is like the message, all right? All the other stuff going on in the world only matters insofar as how you and I and all of us individually conduct ourselves. And what I mean by that is, it is test time. I hope you've studied. I hope you've practiced. I hope you are ready for the recital, because it is test time for select all. To close, I'll just give you a fun fact. In the Dune universe, the expression Kol Wahad is not used lightly. It is meant only for the most profound, and yet, by the end, it is used frequently. In translating what that actually means, one possible transliterated mangling is select all. Control A. Alt F4